Greetings and welcome to this segment of the Christ is in Your Crisis Ministry, Inc. on the Voice of Relevance with Reverend Dr. Janice Cooper. I am your host today and thank you. And as promised, I told you that I would come back to share other things that the Lord is concerned about with his body. So today I want to talk to you about uninhibited by negativity. And nothing beats sharing like a story of what God is doing. About 5 years ago, I was in my office and the program director for a local community called me and said, Dr. Cooper, I want you to come and sit down with us and talk about bullying in the classroom. And I said, bullying? She said, yes, I'd like to do a segment on bullying. And of course, I always try to work in community and work with people to grow and go. And I said, set up the date, and she did. I called my son immediately, who is a classroom educator in high school. I said, son, is bullying a thing? He says, yes, mom, bullying is a thing. I said, okay. So when you're assignment minded in God, there's a laser focus, and anything that's not in God's view at that time, you're not really thinking about it. So I was focused on the crisis situations, and bullying was not on the record at that moment. So when I got to the segment that day, the doctor asked me, so do you think that the bully deserves grace? I said, absolutely. Everybody deserves grace. I said, but what the bully doesn't realize is that grace is being afforded to them because we don't have big women and big men problems. We have childhood problems, little girls and little boys trapped in all of our successes, achievements, which we have done, and we hide in that. Fast forward, this many years later, God allowed me to know about bullying then because I would come in contact with a bullying society. Society is a bully. Some people you meet, they bully. The people that run upon you in the driving traffic are bullies. They're not all in a hurry. They are frustrated with life. People that you meet in the market who can't give you a smile are frustrated people in life. Managers at corporate and people at McDonald's and all of the places, when you walk in, there is no customer service. Why? Because we live in a bullying society. Well, I got news for you. When you look at the gospel writers, those evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you find that Jesus was bullied by the chief priests, scribes, and Pharisees. And yet, because of the bullying, you have to be assignment minded. Remember, Jesus had his assignment from God. And when you have an assignment from the Lord, you are focused on that assignment. And if you don't know what your assignment is, that is your assignment today. It's to find out why God would choose you in the midst of everybody in your family to do something. Why he let your mom and your dad come together to have you. You have to have the right personality, the right zeal, the right smile, the right robustness at the time that it's needed. And when you find out that God has given you assignment, then you move straight ahead. It is like Jeremiah, the Old Testament writer says, he says, and by my God, I have run through a troop, and by my God, I have leaped over walls. And when you understand what your purpose is for being born, you're going to not be inhibited by negativity. Now, I was coming to work one day, right about 8 months ago, and as I was turning the corner to go in, the Lord spoke to me so plainly, uninhibited by negativity. I said, Lord, that's pretty deep. I said, I've never even heard those words together. And so I heard him. I went into prayer. I said, what are you saying? Could you make it deeper for me? And I want to read you what the Lord spoke to me. He said, uninhibited by negativity. You are undeterred, unwavered, not distracted, unencumbered, unstopped, and unfazed by resistance or tribulation. In another sense, it is finding peace, calm, and contentment in what is or what can be, as opposed to what isn't or what can't be. The mindset to move forward in purpose despite opposition. Did you hear me today? Undeterred. You can only do that when you are practicing God's purpose, when you know your assignment, because all of those things are coming to take your peace. If you have no peace, you cannot be in community. Peaceful people can work anywhere and do anything and elbow with anybody. But a person that is in pieces, you're going to know it because it's always about the other person. Take some responsibility, people of God, and say, yes, I allow them to treat me like that. Let me say to you, God's peace, he said, this is my peace that I give you, not as the world gives you, but the peace I give you is not like the world. We think that peace is something that can be manufactured. I want to tell you, the adversary, who is called the devil, cannot do a duplication of two things: peace and joy. He can duplicate love. That's why there's so many people without, folks, so many divorces and so many everything, because people will say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And it is the most overrated word, but love is not in the picture. They pray, P-R-E-Y, not P-R-A-Y. People are praying on you. And therefore, when you know your assignment, God will kick in with information that will help you to move through the turbulence of what he's saying. Uninhibited by negativity. You won't let it get on you. You won't let it touch you, because God will come. That's the purpose of staying in the middle. It is his peace that keeps you in the middle. You have to check in with yourself. Make self-assessments. People are so good at talking about what someone else is not, what someone else can't do. Assess yourself so no one else has to judge you. We live in a society where people are not self-assessing or self-judging. We must begin to self-judge, so when the enemy comes with negativity, we understand that we've already done our homework in ourselves. I understand when I'm out of the middle. I understand when people have gotten a little too close to me, that cutting edge, that growing edge, that edge. And so when it happens, I'm already in a frame of mind where the peace of God is going to rule this game. The peace of God, that's one thing Satan cannot duplicate: peace. The other thing he cannot duplicate is the joy of the Lord. Now, people think that the joy of the Lord means to grin and smile all the time. No. You can grin and smile and be placating and playing and still have that negativity as a latent function calling the shots in your life. I'm talking to the body of Christ and those who want to be ahead of what is coming on this earth. We talk talked about last time when I was with you, the concerns of God, that God hears the cries of his people, and we have to know the God of the Bible. God is not an osmosis God. He is a God who has no contradiction in him. Timothy, the New Testament epistle writer, wrote, even when we don't believe, he remaineth faithful because he cannot deny himself. Is that good news or what? That God cannot deny himself. So joy is strength. The joy of the Lord, Nehemiah, the old gospel writer, wrote, the joy of the Lord is my strength. He stayed up on that wall, even when people, Sanballat and Tobiah, was down trying to get him to come down, even getting in cahoots with his best friend. His best friend tried to take him to the temple. People are always taught God, but they don't mean God. You got to discern who's who right now, because we got demon snipers, sniper demons that's trying to hit at you. But your assignment is going to be your safe place right now. Your assignment, not anybody else's assignment. I feel God in here. It is your assignment that God's going to come back to judge you on. What did I tell you to do? While you worry about everybody else, what did I tell you to do? And when God has told you to do something, you must do it at all costs. He sends you in, and it's his job. If he wants you out, he sends you out. Can't nobody discuss it. It's God who's moving his people. He knows how and who's waiting someplace else. Whosoever will, let them receive God. Whosoever will, let them grow in grace. Whosoever will, let them have the joy. But going back to Nehemiah's friend, he said, come meet me at the temple. He had gotten with Tobias and Sanballat and was in guilt, shame written, and trying to get the Nehemiah, the builder, off the wall. Nehemiah said in the Bible, he said, I perceived that he had been with them. When God's assignment is on your mind, you will know when someone is trying to circumvent your peace and your joy. You will see it and you know. So the joy of the Lord is strength. It has more to do with strength than it has to do with smiling. Smiling is good from the inside because of your assignment and the peace. But joy, baby, you got to work that thing. You got to work that joy with the strength of the Lord. You can do everything you need to do with peace and joy. If you've got peace, you've got God. When you've got joy, you've got God. When you've got salvation, that brings you into the sphere where God can really activate his plan in your life. It is activation time. It is not like people are talking about everything except the Lord who moves and super moves. He rules and super rules. His plan is from the beginning. He is Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. You cannot be inhibited in negativity. You got to move from that. Uninhibited by negativity is not allowing people to treat you like they think they want to treat you. You got to know how to treat yourself, because it is you and I who teach people how to treat you. If you go along just to get along, they're going to kick you and they're going to prod you. And if you say no, 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 even when you say no, you can't treat me like that, they still don't try. Why? Because their persuasion and perspective of you and I are never the same. People don't think about you like you think about you. That's why you got to think about you like you know. You got to act like you know. LaShawn Pace Rose made a song, like you know. And so I want to go back to Nehemiah, who was building on the wall because the walls of Jerusalem were down, and the Lord gave him an assignment and gave him favor with a heathen king because he was the cupbearer, then the governor, but he gave them favor. And so he was able to be assignment minded. He built that wall in a little over 52 days, or 52 or 54, you search it. But I know it didn't take a year. And time has always been something that God will use. People waste time while God is using time. You got to use every available day that God gives you to breathe to do what God says. We are worried about provision. Honey, we've already known that Abraham said, God, you are Jehovah Jireh. You are my provider. Whatever you have need of, God will give it to you. I feel him in here because God loves you. He knows you. He's sending his word. He's raising people up. He's giving them freedom so they can come and talk on this camera. And I want you to know that since 1990, I've been in some form of media, people calling me, asking my advice on things. And I thank God that God has made me a person who is real. This is live, not Memorex. This is the Lord's time in your life, in the body of Christ. Those who are seeking, you've been kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked. Don't be the kicked person any longer. Move your butt out of the way so people can't confuse you with their comfort, because if you don't have grace, you won't know how to treat people. Does the bully deserve grace? Jesus died that we might have grace and life and have it more abundantly. But we have an opposer who is Satan, who was Lucifer, who was in the heavens with God. And now he got kicked out in Luke. And now he serves a purpose only for God. He cannot act as a lone ranger. God is allowing him to do whatever he does. Remember Job? Hast thou considered my servant Job? There is none like him. So when trouble comes in all capital letters, it is coming to give you a sign that you have been doing what God has given you to do. And you in the right place at the right time when trouble comes. Because when you've done your best, God is the scorekeeper, not man. God is the one who sends you on the assignment. There are assignments. You're on assignment in your job. You're on assignment in the grocery store. You're on assignment in the bank. I declare unto you, I went to a bank the other day, and I'm talking about a transaction. The lady who was helping me stopped literally in her office. She said, I believe God is loves other people more than he loves me. I'd never seen her. She had never seen me. I'd never been to that bank, but the Lord told me, led me to that bank. And she was talking. She said, I want to know. I want you to tell me, Dr. Cooper, because she was reading the documents. I want you to tell me, does God love somebody else more than me? I'm not a leader. I don't feel. I heard on the radio that God will lead you to people. And when she asked me, I'm going, God, is this real? I was just having a day to myself. And she put everything down, put her hands on her desk and said, I want you to tell me. And I'm going, are you seriously asking me this? I knew she was serious, but I always try to give people an opportunity to redirect when I'm asking a question. It's a rhetorical question only for you to catch up with what you're saying. And I told her what the Lord had already designed for me before I was formed in my mother's womb. God has an assignment, and there are people that are hungry for God. And if we keep moving in the negativity with people who talk about God, but they don't care anything about God. And you say, lady, how can you be so bold to say it? Well, if I'm looking for an apple tree, oranges shouldn't be on it. If I'm looking for an orange tree, apples shouldn't be on it. That's how you know. And I want to tell you something right now. That woman got up out of her desk office and walked me outside, still talking about God. And she says, I know he sent you. That's where my life is. That's what I love about God. You are here today. Tell somebody in the chat, I believe God has assigned me. I'm on assignment and I'm not taking anything else other than his grace, his love, his respect, his honor. It's an honor. Even though the chief scribes and the Pharisees ran Jesus bullying, Jesus always reminded himself first and to the other people, my Father has sent me. This is not spooky. This is for real. The kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent taken by force. That doesn't mean fighting. It means I'm going to forcefully remove myself from the penetration of disrespect, dishonor, discord, toxicity. I'm not gonna do it. Ooh, I feel God in here. If you feel him today, say, I feel the Lord rising up on in me. Isaiah 61 said, Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord, not of people, the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. And when you are in the face of somebody who's hungry for the Lord, you will know it, because they will put their hands down on their desk and say, lady, what can you tell me? I am ready. And she was from another country under dictatorship. All of her young life, I want to tell you, research where you came from as a little girl and a little boy. I don't care what you drive, where you live, who you are. Negativity lays dormant to cause confusion and exact havoc in one's life who does not start a journey to know the Lord. Honey, knowing the Lord is what sets you free. He's going to give you people. If I go to Ethiopia, I'm going to come out with somebody that knows God or wants God from me, and we can share. That's how I live my life, uninhibited by negativity. Don't be deterred right now. Don't think someone else has the key to your plans and purposes from God. God has the key. Yes, people may help you. He will use people. But I got to tell you, both kingdoms, the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light, both uses people. Satan has people. You can see them. You can tell them. If you meet people, I don't meet people by their names. The people be said, this is so, I meet people by their spirit. Amen. And so when I meet people by their spirit, I already know. What's what? And the kingdom of heaven, the lordship on this earth, will let you meet peaceful people. People who smile at you. That's still a way of greetings. We have such a society that people won't speak to you. And even when you go in the brick and mortar, people will not be kind to you. What has happened? You ought to be able to share kindness. If you can't share money, share kindness. If you can't share anything, be kind to somebody. Be kind, because it's coming a time where everything will be reckoned. You got to reckon some things to be so today. You've got to reckon that there shall not be any more negativity in my life. If somebody says, lady, do you have to move off the planet? No, you have to remove yourself and trust God with what he's given you. Check his record, pull his record and see what he's done for you in the past, and you'll see if those things didn't kill you, which were tougher then than they are now. If they didn't kill you, this is not going to kill you. What they're doing is not about them. You don't have to be ugly with nobody. You don't have to get mad with nobody. Just leave the presence of an angry man, of a heartless person who appears heartless, of a disrespectful person, of a dishonoring person. You don't have the right, I have the right to remain silent. And if I give up that right, it will be used against me in my assignment. Hello, I came to talk real to you today because the Lord's concern is that his people are getting too caught up on people. Don't get caught up on people. Be kind to people. Work with people. And when you cannot, when you come to an impasse, what you gonna do? Go in the river, the ravine? Absolutely not. I'm turning around and going back where the Lord is with my assignment. His plan doesn't change. You say, how you know, lady? Because I've always had the gift of gab. But now the gift of gab is as a voice of relevance to the Lord, for the Lord, with the Lord. And if you have made up in your mind from these few minutes together, I am uninhibited by negativity. How do you start? How do you start? Get up out of the ashes and rise. Rise to God's occasion. He will be there to meet you. And I want to say again, God does nothing until he speaks. On my next segment, I will talk about it. But God does nothing until he speaks. When he speaks, then everything starts moving. How do you know, lady? I was in resurrection service this past Resurrection Sunday. And God gave a prophetic word to the people. He said, today, come to the altar and walk another way. He said, from this day forward, you will not have what you came in this church with. When that happens, I already know. I've been tested with God and the prophetic. You call yourself prophetic. I call myself what God calls me. And it is to free people. I'm an investor of people. I'm a gap filler for people. And if I can't help you, I'm 2 on the Enneagram. That is an assessment tool to let you know when you're at your best. I'm number 2 on it. And if I can't help you, I'm going to leave you. I do better when I can help you. Hello. And so I got the message that there was somebody in the church, this person themselves called, and said, you said on Resurrection Sunday that there would be things that would be different in our lives. I'm talking about God does nothing until he speaks. And she said, I was a stutterer. And since Resurrection Sunday, I have not stuttered at all. And she's a minister of the gospel. So God doesn't want any stuttering. Moses had a stuttering problem and he gave Aaron the words to speak. Now he's healing you of stuttering. Why? Because of grace, because it's dispensation of grace. We are not under the law. We are under the lordship. There are some people that want to put you under the law and act like you're someone else. But this is a time of grace, people. Don't be putting nobody under the law, because people who know grace are not going to bow to the law. The law is over under the Mosaic law, and it was for the lawless. Jesus came, shed his blood on Calvary that we might have grace and more abundant. I hope that you have heard the Lord speak to your heart. God does have concerns. Somebody say, God is God. He doesn't have concerns. If he said, let us make man in our own image and likeness, lets me know that if we feel, he feels. Jesus wept, we wept. You got to choose today. Choose you this day. Who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust people because you think they have more to give you than the Lord of purpose and power and spirit? I came to tell you that's not true. He has been tested. Prove him. God said, command ye concerning the work of my hand. Pull my record. Pull my record. And we're not going to tiptoe through the daisies, but I'd rather have the God of divinity on my side any day than 3 million people, because God, the Godhead, is the majority at all times. I thank you for your time. I thank you for hearing this message. I promised you that I would come back, and I promise you that I will come back only when God says it. And God woke me up to bring me this message to you because he knows you're out there. He knows you're out there. I don't know who's behind the camera ever, but God knows who's behind the camera. And I'm just loving God enough to say, God, I've tested you from the time I was a teenager. I'm not a teenager now, but it sure feels good to feel like one, because God said, I will renew your youth and make you with the strength that no one can say that you're not equipped by me. I will hold your hand. Write in the comments, I am uninhibited by negativity after hearing this. Assignment minded is what gets you to the next place, just like Jesus. They buried him in a new tomb. He went in. They thought he wasn't going to get up, but his assignment led him to that tomb. And his assignment got him a resurrection day and us too. So my hope for you is deliverance, a new mind, a new mindset, that you will walk and follow peace, because you can't get it at a local store, not even the local drugstore. It comes from him. My peace, he said, I give to you, not as the world gives, but as I give. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Move in the press, because the blessing is in the pressing in the middle. Stay in the middle. Wherever you've been, come back to the center, and you will find that God is there. We thank you, Holy One, for what you've said today to encourage every heart. Until next time, thank you for journeying with us. We bring you greetings and salutation from the Christ is in Your Crisis Ministry Incorporated and the Voice of Rebels with Reverend Dr. Janice Cooper. Peace and wholeness and joy for this season in your life. God bless you.